In this video, we will say a few remarks about Walkman as an example of cultural interrelations between East Asia, namely Japan, and Western countries. According to Japanese sociologist Koichi Wabushi, who works on cultural globalization, one of the biggest changes regarding Japan since about 10 years is maybe the growing diffusion of its popular culture on a worldwide scale. This cultural spreading of Japan in Western countries started in the beginning of the 80s, especially with the transformations of the way of consuming culture due to the Made in Japan technologies. The Walkman, launched in 1979 by the Japanese company Sony, is a good example of that global and cultural process of exchanges, in particular between East Asia and the Western world. Walkman is an English term invented in Japan, which underlines the strong relations between Japan and Western countries regarding technologies and the world of companies. This name also expressed the novelty of such a device, namely the fact that with it you can listen music while walking and doing other dynamic activities. The following portable audio players created by the company kept that name due to its popularity and its worldwide diffusion and recognition. So now we are going to say a few words about the history of Walkman and the way it was conceived. So first we can say that this history of this portable stereo can be seen as a little bit controversial. Indeed, the first claim of that invention came from a German man who lived in Brazil and which is known by the name of Andreas Bavel. He is the first to had filed a patent for a portable stereo tool, which was at the time a stereo belt. It was in 1977. Sony then bought the property rights of the tool and started to develop its own stereo portable device 2 years after. There is another explanation of the premises of the Walkman, and it's gave by the production itself. It insists on the non-plane dimension of the Walkman. The engineer, Kuroki Yasuo, working in the R&D department, asserts that the Walkman was not originally created for a massive commercial exploitation. Its production and conception was more an intern project, a private experiment. He said also that the team of engineers of the company inspired themselves from pre-existing audio equipment used by journalists and created in 1977, the Pressman. At that time, listen to music was not perceived as an individual activity. So that's why the brand did not anticipate that a massive demand of the product will be happen. The first Walkman of Sony was the TPS L2, a metal-cased blue and silver Walkman. It's the first low-cost personal stereo. It was first sold in Japan in 1979 for about $150 and then arrived in America in 1980. Regarding the marketing, the brand insists on the liberty of motion that the portable stereo allows and put forward in its commercial, sports activities. We can say now a few words about some effects that the Walkman and the massification of its use created. After its creation, success was not long to arrive. Only 2 years after its creation, in 1981, about 2 million of Walkman were sold in Japan and abroad. And maybe the fact that about 60% of the production was aimed for exportation shows that Walkman was perceived by the brand as a tool to insert itself in the global cultural market. And it's the beginning of the idea that Japan's position in the worldwide culture was synonymous of miniaturization and high technology. Another effect is related to the way of how one listened to music, which has direct consequences on musical supports and devices at that time. That's why maybe compact cassette format outweighed vinyl very quickly during the 80s. More generally speaking, Walkman changed the way of perceiving the activity of listening to music, and also became a strong success amongst teenagers. Walkman was an icon in 1980s culture, and it still is when one refers to that period. Using Walkman was also the beginning of a massive use of headphones, and it created controversy and it was condemned by people who criticized its individualistic dimension and the isolation it created. It generated a lot of safety controversy in the US. One little funny story about that is that in 1982, the mayor of Woodbridge in New Jersey banned the Walkman in public due to the pedestrians' accidents. The brand continues to develop Walkman to improve the technology and the sellings, for example with the Discman, but it was progressively overwhelmed by the MP3 format at the dawn of the 21st century.